Yeah, man, this feels good.
Yeah.
This is a different feeling, man. We ready to go. As you can tell, we got the Ninja Turtles on, all decked out in the Cleveland Browns, and we're gonna welcome you in, John Kosko, G.Bush, Browns preview show on the Barbershop Network. Big time win for the Cleveland Browns. John, go ahead and start this thing off. You know, what are your thoughts on that game against a squad in the Cincinnati Bengals that you had to have?
Yeah, I mean, they had, arguably their best performance of the season. And you're talking about with all the noise that was going on during the week, and they put it behind them. They focused, they got to work, and they played lights out. And this is kind of an interesting thing, and we'll probably get more into it or whatever. But this team seems to be better without that superstar that is no longer on the team. And defense played lights out. Offense played lights out. It looked a little shaky at first in that first drive where the Bengals just, drove down the field. But Denzel Ward, he set the tone for the rest of the game. And, you can't give kudos to this coaching staff for keeping this team focused and on point. And, Baker balled out, and the whole team did as well.
That 220, I think Baker threw for 220, couple touchdowns. But this was a different type of 220. I said it in the post game when I was doing it live. It was a different type of 220. It's not about, how many yards you throw for us. It's the amount. It's where you get them. It's the big plays. He got the big play to Donovan Peoples-Jones, threw the ball right on the money. I thought he threw a couple nice, really touch passes, which he hasn't shown. One on the sideline.
Harrison Bryant.
And David Njoku, I thought was perfect placement in the end zone when he threw the last touchdown. He had a couple of nice throws. I thought he showed a variety of throws. He was on target for the most part, except for one throw to Jarvis Landry, which was kind of underthrown. But other than that, I thought he looked tremendous. What did you see on film, and what did you see the difference between, weeks past with Odell Beckham Jr. and what did you saw this week when he was really stepping up, making big time throws?
He was decisive. He, hit the top of his drop, knew exactly where he was going to go with the ball, and threw a strike. And you're right. He missed just one throw in this game. Essentially, he had a couple of throwaways. He had a hit is thrown, his team basically delivered for him. No drops in this game. He was incredible under pressure. So the throw to Donovan Peoples-Jones, he got smoked right as after he delivered it. From a poor block by Blake Hance there. And then, the touchdown to David Njoku, he got smoked in the back right as he then delivered it. If he holds on to that just a beat longer, and he had to throw that so early. Like, he looked off the safety, pulled Jesse Bates to the middle of the field to open up that window, and threw it with really good anticipation. Everything was a smooth and rhythm. He wasn't hesitant with stuff. He did take 2 sacks, unfortunately, but I mean, his grade was a career high from a under pressure. He had a 94.3 in this game under pressure. Didn't matter if they blitzed him or didn't blitz him. He was both in the 80s and grade wise. He had the best game of the season. And, it's kind of like reminiscent of last year where that Pittsburgh game looked really bad. And then you go to the Cincinnati and he has his best game of the season. And hopefully this springboards him into the second half of the season and he can light it up again.
Another guy I was really impressed with was Donovan Peoples-Jones. He came back. He's just a guy who, despite the rest of the receiving core, he just has a different build, different body type. Even when Odell Beckham Jr. was here, it always seemed like we had smallish receivers that we threw the ball to. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a bigger body. He's sneaky fast. He has good hands, good acceleration, good speed. And he runs good routes. He had a great, catch for the deep touchdown. He also caught a ball where it was in between the cover 2. Baker laid it in nicely right by the goal line, took a big hit, got the ball, still caught the ball, got 2 feet in. Donovan Peoples-Jones, to me, looks like a guy who, one person's, calamity is another person's opportunity to step up. And it looks like he's trying to step up and be a number 1 receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. So this game, he had a 91.4 receiving grade, and just on obviously 2 catches, but phenomenal performance by him and 2 big time catches, essentially. You talk about taking that big shot he did. on the sideline there on a, perfect ball into that hole that Baker found. Yeah, it's just 2 catches on 3 targets in this game with the touchdown. But I mean, they were 2 really big plays for him. And you're right. Like I think what you saw from him, there's a reason why he was a 5-star athlete. He had actually a really solid sophomore season. So, and then was just kind of plagued with injuries in his junior year there. So I think, he lit up the combine. We know what the type of athleticism that he has. And if he can develop like what we're seeing and all the reports that were coming out of preseason, that spells good things for the Cleveland Browns.
Another guy, let's flip it over to the defensive side of the game plan. And, we called out a lot of people, and we have not been, easy on Joe Woods. We have not been easy on Denzel Ward. And I think both of those guys came out, and I thought Joe Woods' game plan to me was the best game plan of this year. To me, it looked a lot more man-to-man coverage, a lot more close coverage in the secondary. Trusting guys like Greg Newsome to go one-on-one with Jamar Chase, even when we were up. Still playing more coverage. Guys look closer to guys, more contested in the secondary. And Denzel Ward playing a really good game. I think he set the tone with that pick 6 when the Bengals were driving early in that first drive. And I really think from there on out, the Browns had that mentality like, okay, we ready to go here. What are your thoughts on the defense in the secondary and the Joe Woods game plan?
He always runs quarters and cover 3, with the team, but he's been peppering a lot more man coverage into the playbook this year, the past couple of weeks. And it showed in this game, cover 1, the team as a whole had an 86.7 coverage grade when they ran cover 1, only allowed 48 yards on 12 coverage snaps on those plays. And that's where the interceptions are happening, pass breakups are happening there. They gave up a passer rating of 15.8 when they were in man coverage. And you're never going to run man coverage on like probably more than 30% of your snaps. It's just not how the NFL works nowadays. But the Cleveland Browns have these cornerbacks with Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, if he's, hopefully he's going to be back, but AJ Green comes in there and he's physical and he's pretty sticky in man coverage. Those guys are really good in man coverage and especially press man. So you utilize those guys to their strengths and, you mix in the zones with that and you confuse the quarterback on what you're doing there. They only blitzed Joe Burrow 6 times. And, going into this game, Joe Burrow had the highest graded quarterback against the blitz. But they did a pretty good job with their blitzes. They timed them up well. They, disguised them pretty well. So from a game plan standpoint, I thought it was, really good. One of the best that Joe Woods had. It was, shaky the first couple of drives. Obviously, going down the field, you needed the pick 6, and then they drove down the field again and scored a touchdown. But really, kind of after that, they really locked it down and showed what type of defense this team can be the rest of the season.
Another guy who hasn't looked like himself, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb hasn't looked like himself, but he really busted out in this game. On few carries, right? He didn't even have like 20 carries, 30 carries. Nick Chubb comes out there, and, the highlight of it is that big 70-yard run. But Nick Chubb had a lot of good runs in his game, was always moving his pads forward. And he's a bona fide superstar. And he showed in this game why he's different from a lot of running backs in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he's consistently graded as one of the best running backs in the NFL since he came into the NFL. And he grades higher than Derrick Henry. He just doesn't get the volume that Derrick Henry does. And you see what happens when you do get that volume. Derrick Henry's going to miss the rest of the season with a broken foot. Yards after contact, Nick Chubb had 122 of them, 8.71 per carry after contact. That's after contact. That's not just yards per carry. So he's just, obviously a big part of that was the big touchdown run, the 70-yarder, where he slipped the tackle of Larry Ogunjobi there. And then, then went beast mode. But, he's a stud. He broke 6 tackles in this game. And he's, like you said, he's just constantly moving forward. And then he just looked better in this game. And you have to hope that I think the COVID protocols are that you have to have 2 negative tests and he can be back. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
But when we get back, we will get to Kosko's PFF's grades. We had a lot of guys who really graded out well in this game. We'll get to that. We'll also come back, and don't forget, we'll do behind enemy lines. We'll get into this game against. I'll tell it. This is one of these playoff games. No excuse November. We got to win this week. We'll come back and talk about it. It's G.Bush, John Kosko on the Browns Preview Show on the Barbershop Network. Kosko's PFF grades are brought to you by BetUS.com. Bet with the 3-decade leader, BetUSA.com. Join now for 125% bonus or 200% bonus with crypto. Use the promo code BARBERSHOP and bet sports, casinos, horses, pop culture, and more at BetUS.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.
BetUS has been serving clients for 25 plus years and prides itself on being known as America's favorite sportsbook. With action on every sport across the world, we can pretty much guarantee that we've got your game. BetUS offers the industry's biggest retail bonus to keep our players betting longer. The BetUS loyalty program is legendary. We keep our players up to date with articles, players, teams, stats, and trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions.
Make sure you guys check out BetUS.com and use the promo code BARBERSHOP. BetUS.com. Welcome back to the Browns Preview Show on the Barbershop Network. John Kosko of PFF is in the building as always. G.Bush is here from 92.3 The Fan. And let's go over your Pro Football Focus top 3 grades from this game. There's a lot of guys and some honorable mentions in this one because so many people played well.
Yeah, the top graded guy in this game for the Browns was Wyatt Teller. Everybody knows about the one spearing, diving block to the ground that he had on Jesse Bates on Nick Chubb's 70-yard touchdown run, but he had like 4 other pancakes in this game and was just absolutely destroying the Bengals defensive line in this game. He owned and was only beat once in pass protection, so he had a pretty close to a flawless game in this one, and was just dominant and earned that contract extension he just got today. Highest graded NFL player over the past 6 weeks, from just been back to that standard that we saw last year where he's graded a 94.5 over the past 6 weeks, like just insane numbers right there. So kudos to him. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 91.8 in this game. He was excellent. We touched on him already. Mm-hmm. Those 2 big plays, both of those big time catches, was solid in the run game as well. And actually had to pass protect and on a play as well. And held his own and fared up well there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Denzel Ward, 93.1, was the defensive player of the week for PFF. And Wyatt Teller was the offensive player of the week, by the way, for PFF. But Denzel Ward, obviously you get the pick 6. It's one of the biggest plays of the week, but was also targeted 4 times total, only gave up 1 catch for 11 yards, had 2 pass breakups in addition to that. So he was just unbelievable. And then the honor mentions, we'll talk about John Johnson. Had clearly his best game as a Cleveland Brown, forced that fumble on Jamar Chase, had the interception as well, almost scored on that one. Mm-hmm. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Baker Mayfield, honorable mention, was the highest graded quarterback of the week until Justin Fields put on a pretty good show last night in Monday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers and that almost comeback that they have. So Baker Mayfield, 89.8, had 4 big time throws. Like we said, only the one actual missed throw in the game that was late in the fourth quarter to Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, man. Listen, all those guys played well. Wyatt Teller, look, I always talk about one man's mistake is another man's come up. And OBJ is out of here. They was like, we weren't gonna pay you anyway. Wyatt Teller, listen, came up $56 million, $28 million guaranteed 4-year deal. And so it just goes to show you, we talked about that. The Browns, one of the things that we looked at is the cap situation where you got a lot of 1-year deals, a lot of guys on their last year's their contract, and they want to get paid. So now we've seen the Cleveland Browns take care of a couple guys, right? They took care of Nick Chubb. They took care of Wyatt Teller. They've extended Kareem Hunt. So they've done some guys a few solids, and I think they've done J.C. Treader, if I'm not mistaken. And Joe Bitonio has received an extension by this crew as well. So they've signed a lot of people, especially up front and in the backfield, kind of solidifying what they want to do. They've shown that if you play, they'll give you the bag. The bag is up there to be had. So, Browns. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting how Wyatt Teller was the highest graded guard in the NFL last year, the third highest graded player in the NFL last year, and you could easily think to like most GMs would say, all right, let's throw the bag at him. Let's get him assigned to an extension, right? But you want to be sure that wasn't a fluke, right? You don't want to just rush into a decision like that. And that's kind of like what they're doing did with Baker Mayfield. You could have rushed into the decision of signing him to a long-term deal, and then he comes out and stinks up the joint. And he kind of has stunk up the joint up until, for the past 6 weeks up until this game, right? So they confirmed, oh, yeah, Wyatt Teller is a stud and he's murdering people out there. We want this guy on our team. Let's reward him. And they did.
Well, when we come back, we'll get to behind enemy lines. We'll get into this game against the New England Patriots. Very intriguing game. I think New England is a little mysterious. Mac Jones, but Bill Belichick is always a guy that's going to game plan, keep people honest, and he's going to come up with a great game plan. We'll dive into that, and we'll do it next. It's G.Bush, John Kosko on the Browns Preview Show on the Barbershop Network. Around the AFC North is brought to you by Manscaped. Who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming? Champions of the world, Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family and your jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawn Mower 4. And I'm going to tell you what, this is freaking awesome, guys. Listen, this thing is sleek. This thing is cool. It runs very efficiently. And best of all, it does not cut you where you're most sensitive at. Don't get yourself twisted. This is the barbershop. I would not tell you about something that don't clean you up right. You're going to get the Lawnmower 4. You heard that right, the 4. And you can join over 2 million people worldwide who trust Manscaped with the exclusive offers for you today, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code BARBERSHOP at manscaped.com.
Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. Manscaped engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. It even allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths. Man, if you've been shaving with the same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it wrong. Don't do that. You could do it with your face, but if you don't want to mix and match there, so
I'll tell you what,
get yourself a new one.
I will tell you what, one of the things we talk about all the time is with these kind of trimmers and stuff is the cut. I thought, you're kind of apprehensive because I've cut myself before and it hurts whether it's on your face, but it really hurts down there. Also, they do a really good job of coming out with other different products. Right now, this is the crop preserver. If you use deodorant under your arms, why not use deodorant down there? This is clean, it feels effective, and it gives off no residue. That's what we're looking for when you're a big guy as well. And they have a handy dandy spray, which will really help you out as well. This is the Crop Reviver. Keeps you down there, keeps everything smooth and ready to go. And trust me, the significant other will like it. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code BARBERSHOP at manscaped.com. The 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped, and use the code word BARBERSHOP. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Welcome back to the Browns Preview Show on the Barbershop Network. G.Bush, John Kosko. Let's get right off into this game. New England Patriots versus the Cleveland Browns. Browns on the road again, second straight week. It's a Sunday game, CBS, 1 o'clock. This time it's at Foxborough. The Patriots haven't been all too well at Foxborough this year. We go behind enemy lines, and then we look at this game and break this down. They haven't been too good at home this year in terms of win-loss record at Foxborough. I believe they're 1-4 at home this year. However, it looks like Mac Jones is a guy who is steady. He has a team at 5-4. They did explode and have I think 50 or 60 points they put on the board. But again, that's against the Jets. They haven't beat very many.
Beat the Bengals too,
and they beat the Bengals. See, look, we can play that game too. And they beat the Chargers. So hey, they beat a team you didn't beat. What are your thoughts on talent level between the Patriots and the Browns?
I would say from a talent standpoint, I think you give the edge to the Browns, but like this is a Bill Belichick coach team. Their defense is going to be doing things in that back end that are going to really try to confuse Baker Mayfield. Offensively, Mac Jones, as the fifth quarterback that was drafted in this class, is clearly grading as the number one guy. He's an 83.0 so far this season, which is, a top 10 level from a quarterback position this year. So he's putting up, really good grades. He's taking care of the ball for the most part. He's making really good decisions and delivering the ball like under pressure. Like he has that ability where he knows how to go through his progressions and sit in the pocket when chaos is going around him. And that's the thing about him, is that he showed that at Alabama and now he's showing that in the NFL. And I think that he's a guy that, could very well become one of those top quarterbacks in the NFL. They have good players on both sides of the ball. Their wide receivers don't really scare you, but again, like the Browns wide receivers don't scare you. And, they make it work. They got, Hunter Henry as their tight end. They got Jonnu Smith as their tight end. So they kind of run this, 2 tight end set that they got there with, they got N'Keal Harry that they bring in at times. Kendrick Bourne that they bring in, Jacoby Myers. All those guys are solid players. But nothing to write home about. And also Nelson Aguilar, who can, take the top off the defense.
When the Browns go out and defensively and you can stop a team like the Cincinnati Bengals, coming to this game, you have Mac Jones and, you just mentioned a bunch of tight ends and guys who are, pedestrian guys. You would think that the Browns defense should have an opportunity to play toe-to-toe with this team and still be able to bring some pressure up front with the guys that we have in Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney up front. I would give the Browns defense an edge in this game. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. I mean, their offensive line is a solid unit. They got Michael Onwenu as one of their tackles. He's their highest graded player on offense. Shaq Mason's a really good, guard in the NFL, is one of the top guards. But after that, it kind of, Isaiah Wynn's solid. He grades as a 71, nothing special there. Ted Karras is another guard that he's down in the 60s, and David Andrews is in the 60s as well. So they have a solid offensive line, but the Browns defensive front should be able to get after this team. When you have a signal caller in Mac Jones that knows how to decipher what a defense is trying to give to you, that's usually what wins out. But the Browns, from a talent standpoint, definitely have the advantage.
Offensively, I have a lot more confidence this week because of the way Baker Mayfield played last week. I have more confidence because of some of the throws and some of the shot plays that he was willing to take. He was willing to throw some of those tight window throws to David Njoku. He was willing to put the ball in the air, throw with anticipation, and have some trust in the receivers. I even like little small routes that he threw to Anthony Schwartz. Anthony Schwartz just ran a little 15-yard dig, and he just threw the ball. And I was like, oh man, that looked nice. But it wasn't nothing. That was just high school route. But I just liked the way he was just, on target, on pace with everything he was doing. It's hard to disguise what you're doing in the back end if you got to have 9 people in the box. You're going to play action with that. So I love what the Browns are able to do, or they're able to get going with the offense against this defense if the running game is still working and moving and shaking.
Yeah, the weakest part of this team is their run defense. So their run defensive grade is a 51.7, which is, bottom 5 in the NFL. That's just not good, right? And if you can, with this Browns offensive line, they really should be able to push these guys around. Just like we saw in this game, he was decisive. You're talking about the Anthony Schwartz dig route that he was able to throw. That's like those types of plays where he's throwing with anticipation, things that we didn't see when he was the past 6 weeks with OBJ out there, things that we saw last year in the second half of the season when, you know, he was on his hot streak. So if he can be on this, he ride this hot streak, keep playing at this high level, you know, this is, you know, the Browns should be able to make, you know, find their open receivers and be able to pick apart this defense.
Let's get to the X factors for this game. I'm looking at this game. X factors defensively. I'm gonna go X factors with the defensive line. I'm gonna go up front, man. X factors, Jadeveon Clowney. You talked about it. It's gonna be essential to get some pressure after Mac Jones, Jadeveon Clowney. On the other side of Myles Garrett, when you look at it, I think the secondary is going to be able to do some things to make sure that these guys have more time to get home, because I don't think they can really threaten us deep. And I think we have the advantage in the secondary, especially the way guys like John Johnson are playing better. You know, guys, you know, like Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome are playing better. Looking to see if we can get some sacks and some pressure from Jadeveon Clowney up front. He's my X factor on the defensive side of the football. Who's your X factor on defense, John?
I'm going to go with Anthony Walker. So the secondary is playing well. We know these guys are sticky in coverage. They seem to have shorn up their miscommunications, their misalignments, their just busted assignments, all this stuff, right? They seem to fix that up. Anthony Walker has actually been playing really well this season. So this year he has a 73.7 grade. First game against the Chiefs and his first game back from injury were both shaky, but since then he's been really solid for this team. And he plays, you know, 50, 60, 70 snaps a game, and he's basically out there in starters reps. And, you know, I was not expecting this type of a really good year from him. And he's putting on this. And so I think with this team, you're going to have the Patriots really like to pepper the middle of the field. He's going to be in the middle of the field in his zones, going up against Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, Damian Harris out of the backfield, Raman Dor, Stevenson, all these guys that he's going to have to be able to lock it down with, make good tackles, be contesting on these passes. I think for the Browns, if he can play really well in this game, eliminate the middle of the field for the Patriots, it should be really good for the Browns.
My offensive X factor, I'm gonna go with Anthony Schwartz. I think now that you see Odell Beckham Jr. not being a guy that's on his team, now I think you can start to see them game planning some things deep for Anthony Schwartz. I think you're going to start to see maybe one or two deep passes. I think you're going to start to see him in the jet motion game. I think you're going to start to see more creative things for Anthony Schwartz, because one of the things that we've seen is he's not going to have that many busts or misassignments. Very smart guy that, you know, you can depend on to be where he needs to be. I think Anthony Schwartz is a guy that if you can get a play or two, and that's all Cleveland needs. They only need a couple plays to threaten you deep with the way that the running game is working. So I look forward to Anthony Schwartz being X factor offensively. What do you say?
Mine is going to be Baker Mayfield. If he can play like he did in this game, where he was decisive with the football, accurate with the football, made his right reads, they're going to win this game. And it's going to come down to, as you know, we saw what, you know, maybe look at after what happened last week, he played extremely well, rose to the occasion in this game. That is behind. They no longer have that as a motivational factor going into this. So can you, on a normal week now, can you deliver in a normal type of game to repeat that performance? All the data we have does say that, you know, Baker Mayfield is a much better quarterback without OBJ on the field, but let's see if you can sustain that and be consistent with that and play at that level and lead your team to victory.
And that's what it's about. It's about that level of consistency. Played well last week. Got to see it again this week. Let's get to the final predictions. You know, I had the Browns. I'm like, you know, I told them full honesty here. I had the Browns losing last week. I think you had them losing last week, but they came out. They showed up and showed out, and they really stepped up to the occasion. To this week, it's another playoff game. No excuse November, and you're up against another team that's 5-4 on the road. And it's going to be a very tough place to play with a coach that knows how to game and scheme up for teams. And he's a Hall of Fame type guy. I'm going with the Browns on this one, man. I just feel like the Browns are now at a place, when I saw them on the field, I saw a little different energy. You know what I mean? I saw a little like it was coming together a little bit. And it was reminiscent of the way they played the game last year. It was like one of those things where the Browns started to get the ball rolling. And it was like, hey, they start getting stops. And then all of a sudden they was giving the ball back to the defense or offense. And then when you gave the ball back to the offense, it was just, man, we gave the ball back to these guys because now the run game is going. They were hitting guys on, pass plays. The tight ends were moving. And I just think that the Browns are right now in a good place offensively. And I think you'll start to see some of the young guys even grow a little bit more. I got the Browns winning this game. And I think they get 35 points. I get the Browns 35-24 in this game. And I think another great running day for the running backs, either Dearness Johnson or Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb will play in this game too. And I think Baker Mayfield will be efficient as well. And I got the Browns winning. What do you got? Yeah,
so the New England Patriots have only given up 35 points, or more than even 28 points in a game once this year, and it was 35 points to the Dallas Cowboys. And up until last week, the Dallas Cowboys actually had the number one overall team grade in PFF, and then they put up a stinker somehow against the Broncos. I don't get it either. And this was at New England, right? So I think with you can probably see a similar type of performance. I think you're going to Browns should be able to go out there. They should be able to run the football. Baker should be able to find open receivers and, put points up on the board. I think you're right there. Now it depends on what are the Browns going to be able to shut down what, Mac Jones and his offense has to offer. They've only, they've held to, 10 or 16, 13, and 17 points in the first, 3 of their first 4 games of the season. But since then, they've been 25, 29, 54, 27, 24. So they've been putting in mid-20s and plus in, for most of the season. I would say that this game is going to be kind of similar to that Cowboys game where I'd say Browns, maybe 34 to 27 type game. It's going to be pretty competitive. And I think it's going to look more of a dominant performance, but I think you're going to see some, just some good offensive side of the ball football, and maybe the Browns actually can hold them down or whatever. But I think you're going to. I don't know if you can hold down a Patriots type team for so long.
Yeah, I think they're getting some points on the board, but I think in the end, Browns will come out with a victory against a good team. And that's it for this episode of the Browns Preview Show on the Barbershop Network. Make sure you guys make sure you subscribe. Make sure you definitely share this post so we can get this out to everyone out there. Make sure you do that. Go Browns. We'll catch you next week, same place, same time on the Browns Preview Show.